Your parents, they teach you what they know, nothing more, sometimes less, and the rest you have to find out on your own. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar. First of all, please like the video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. In the last video, I talked about updates and changes to the channel. Well, before I get into that, I realized that this whole Donald Trump, Iran, Iraq business is going on, and I do want to speak on that at some point, but I have to, just sit down and read everything myself before I speak on it. In any case, this video right here. So in the last video, I did talk about updates and changes to the channel, and certain content will be covered in depth on some of the other channels that I created. The big discussions sports channel is up right now, and I just uploaded my first video on that today. So if you're watching this and you're interested more in the sports topics, you should go over there and subscribe. But in terms of my format and my content, this channel is going to continue to cover certain topics, and in some instances, and I think I did this in 2019 in my first year as a content creator, at times this channel is going to be a confessional. So and what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to take us back to the late 1980s and early 1990s to the inception of reality TV, and I'm going to discuss the very first Real World series on MTV just briefly. And my brother Amal is going to laugh at this. He watched that series pretty regularly, and I think that this was on the cusp of when MTV stopped becoming when they stopped just playing music exclusively, and when they started getting into other things like reality TV and other shows like Remote Control and those kinds of things. So I think I started watching the Real World season 2 and season 3. But one of the things that I noticed when I started watching the show with my brother was that they had something called the Confessional, and I think they got it from the Catholic Church. And in the Catholic Church, you go into this little box of a room, and I think a priest is sitting on the other side, and you're telling this person what you did wrong and what's happening in your life, and they give you some guidance. Well, in the real world, the people in the house, the roommates, depending upon what was happening in the house that particular time, depending upon what kind of issue they were having, they'd go into the confessional room where there was a camera like this, and they'd sit and they'd talk and they'd say, well, me and so, we had a falling out over, leaving too much air in the bread bag, or, so-and-so drunk too much at the bar last night and became verbally abusive, and my feelings were hurt, and, or so-and-so, I think they're talking to so-and-so, and so they would go into this room and bare their soul a little bit, and you see that now on pretty much all of the reality shows. But I'm saying that to say that, in part, going forward, this channel is going to be a bit of a confessional for me sometimes. So let's jump in and let's talk about the title. Your parents teach you what they know. So this video will fall under my principles of creating ecosystems of success, and yeah, I think it'll fall under that principle. So I was home for the holidays, and the holidays have become, the Christmas, New Year holiday. It's become a certain. It's different than it used to be, and I haven't. I'm still a single man, and I haven't started a family yet, or any of those things. I haven't started those milestones. I tried those in the past, and I just haven't gone back to that, and I haven't done that yet. And one of the things that happens is, your family and your parents, they expect you to do certain things by a certain time in your life. And when you don't, they can get a little impatient, and they can wonder, what are you doing? Why haven't you done this yet? When are you going to do it? And as you get older, and once you move out of the home, you start to realize what things you were given and imparted with during your childhood and in your teens. And then once you get out into the world, you realize what tools you were given and the tools that you had to acquire on your own. And I do a lot of thinking about that this time of year, because those conversations come up about life's milestones, and the things that are expected of you from your parents and from your family. And I've realized, and these are not easy discussions to have all the time with your parents and with your family, especially if they feel like they've done the best that they could do. But you realize that in many instances, your parents taught you what they knew. And if your parents are parents who have done the best that they could, they taught you the extent of what they knew. And it might be a lot, depending upon what it is, and it might just be a little. It could be, and you realize that in some instances there were limitations to what they told you. In some instances, the world has changed from the world that they knew in their day. In some instances, they just didn't know. And for a given thing, they weren't successful at it themselves. It could be money and investing. It could be relationships. It could be marriage. It could be buying a home. It could be any number of things. It could be starting a business. They're not going to know everything. No one can know everything, but there are some things that you probably have been sent out into the world not knowing. And it's frustrating when it's things that they expect you to have, and it's things that they expect you to have gotten done that they didn't do, or that they didn't do in a way that was lasting, or in a way that, or they did it in a way that has left emotional scars for everybody. I know that's a lot, and I'm kind of being kind of vague here, but it's difficult when they're asking you to do something they weren't necessarily good at, and you're kind of looking at what happened to them, and you don't want to get involved in that yourself, but they're kind of asking you to do it and expecting you to do it and putting pressure on you to do it, and they may not have been the most successful people at it themselves. And so once you realize that there is, or there was a deficit in your tool belt and your knowledge set, you have to know to go and seek the information and get those tools from someone else. And so you have to realize that you don't have it, and then you have to figure out how to go and get it if it's important to you. But the beauty of it is that we can have, several mothers. We can have several fathers beyond our biological parents. And that's not necessarily a knock on our biological parents, but sometimes you have to go get the game or the information you need from someone else. And so you can go and find other mentors and other parent figures to give you the information that you feel like you're missing. Now, what's interesting is that some of the information that you get from these other parties or from outside your home ecosystem, once you go and get that information, you might go beyond the knowledge or the expertise of your biological parents and your family, and you might get information that conflicts with their ideas. And that's very interesting because as a child, part of the parent-child dynamic is some parents like to tell you, well, I'm older and I'm wiser than you. I've lived longer than you. I've got more wisdom than you. That kind of thing goes on. And then if you're bringing in ideas from another family, your biological parent or your biological family might say, they might try to poke holes, in what you've gotten from someone else. But I'm saying all this to say that even if you don't get it at home, you can still get the information you need to succeed from someone else. Whether it's money and investing, starting businesses, getting married, having children, and those kinds of things. But it's, again, your parents, they teach you what they know, and sometimes they try to protect you by not telling you the whole truth. Sometimes they try to protect themselves by not telling you the whole truth. And sometimes you go out into the world not having all the tools you need to succeed once you get out there. One example is fashion. I recently set out to improve my appearance and image, and that required me working at least for a little while with a style and image consultant, a very well-known style and image consultant, and this individual was very knowledgeable on men's fashion and fragrances and those kinds of things. And I was talking with my father, over the holiday break about that, and my father just came out and told me, he said, I don't know anything about that. And the significance of that is a lot of the women in my culture as a black man, they very much size up your image and your appearance and the way you smell and those kinds of things and the way you carry yourself. They size those things up early, and there's data showing or discussing how black women evaluate a man's appearance first and all of the other things second, allegedly, versus other races of women. But that was just an example. My father wasn't very knowledgeable on fashion and fragrance and accessorizing and those kinds of things, and so so that's something I didn't really have a feel for once I left the home and once I got my PhD. And I think the thought once I got my PhD was that that would be enough in the dating and mating world. But there are often other pieces that you need to add to yourself and other tools that you need to put onto your tool belt. So that's all I had to say in this one. In the comment section below, feel free to share whether or not there were things you had to learn outside of your home once you left. And before I close, that's actually called consequential knowledge. Oftentimes, these things I'm talking about, it's some form of consequential knowledge. And the great Dr. Thomas Sowell defined consequential knowledge as knowledge for which there are consequences if you don't have it. So if there's consequential knowledge that you went out into the world without, feel free to tell your story in the description box below. I'm going to stop this video here. Please like the video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.